You asked for it, and here we go. I am painting the Light Fury next to Toothless. But before we got to this point where I can just do the sketch and everything's fun and happy, I had to prep that wall because I had shelves on it, and I did not have that wall paint anymore, which meant I had to repaint the entire wall. Truthfully, I thought I was just going to do touch-ups, but I didn't have any of the paint left over, which meant I had to go for a whole new color and a whole new tub of paint. So here we are, painting the entire wall. Awesome. I don't really mind. I like painting a wall. It's good. It's my happy place. Very calm, very peaceful. And now it is the next day and it is done. It is dry. I'm mixing these colors together to make a dark gray. This is going to be the color that I'm using for the outline here. I am going just straight for the outline. I stopped doing the color pencil sketch because then I realized I didn't have to paint over pencil lines. I could just sketch it with a paint. And now here we are. I am using craft base paint today. It is water soluble, which means you can add more water to it to make it runnier, which I tend to do for the wall paintings. When you paint on a canvas, the canvas itself has woven texture to it that will help pull the paint off your paintbrush and onto the canvas. But when you're working on a wall, that's a flat surface. There's nothing to pull paint off your brush. And so adding some water to the mixture to make it runnier does make it easier to paint on the wall. If you notice, I am keeping those brush strokes in real time, which means this isn't just a speed video. I'm showing you what it actually takes time-wise for each brush stroke. Hopefully you also see a bit more of my attention to detail and what I'm actually doing, how long this is taking. This is just the first coat of the white paint for the Light Fury. I won't show you every layer because you can't really notice it as I'm doing it, but by the end of this video I did about 6 layers of white paint, just to make sure it really came through nicely. If you notice though here, I'm kind of trying to stay in the lines, but also not staying in the lines. I'm not too fussed because I am going to be painting one final outline at the very end, so I don't really have to worry about keeping the lines super clean right now. Those will be clean later. I'm really happy to be doing this project today because a lot of people have suggested it, and I think it'll definitely add to the room, make it seem more like a proper theme. For the shadows, I did decide to go for a purplish blue tone, and I'm keeping it very, very basic and rounded. I do want the painting to look fun, simple, pop out of it, and definitely match the style of Toothless. Here I'm going for another layer of the white to kind of clean up some of the lines, define the highlights, maybe go over some areas of the purple that I regretted, as well as smooth out any areas that may have not been smooth before. I might have missed some things basically. Add the shine to the eyes, and we're going over the second coat of the shadows now. It's funny how much the first coat of paint just doesn't match the final result of a second or third coat. That first coat of paint really just kind of makes you question it sometimes, but you have to trust the process. Go for the next layer of paint anyway and hope that it dries the color that you want, because acrylic paint does tend to dry just a whole different color. It does make it a bit of a challenge. You just never know what color it's going to dry actually. This is why it is good to do test patches or mix in smaller amounts just to make sure you're extra sure. I did choose to add a darker shadow tone just to help define things a little bit more, add some dimension. In case you're curious, here are the shoes that I'm wearing today. They are flat whites. Not a smart choice if you were painting. And then we got started on the outline again. This is the final outline. I did lighten the color of the dark gray. I felt like the first color I mixed turned out a bit too dark, and I'm happier with the second one because it matches Toothless more. And now I'm just focusing on making these lines as clean as I possibly can. I have brought out my brushes that I trust a bit more. Sometimes when you use a cheaper brush or a brush that's just kind of more disposable, or you don't really care how it ends up at the end, it's not always the most trustworthy brush. It's a brush that just gets the job done. It's gonna put the paint where the paint's gonna go, kind of. But for the detail bits, you do want to use a paintbrush that you trust the direction the brush is going to pull. You don't want the brush strokes to accidentally just kind of go wonky last second, if that makes sense. And that can depend on the brush. I'm doing a few more final cleanups, adding a few more lines in places that I think would be cool, and then I'm going to add a base ground. Toothless is sitting on grass, and for the Light Fury, I want it to look a little bit like a grass tone, but mainly a cave-like blue. So more rock tones and cool tones. Provide a nice contrast, complement the background that the Light Fury is on. This is the first part of the video where I've kind of sped it up a bit. For the most part, I've tried to keep it pretty in real time. This is no longer in real time. Just quick little brush strokes showing what I'm doing at the base. So I'm going back and forth, pulling some purples in there and some plant-like texture. We're going pretty basic here. I thought I was about done, but looking at it from the angle that you'd look at the room most of the time, I thought the wing was a little bit too long. Perspective, your eyes made it longer. And so I did decide to take it in a notch, and I think it looks better. Then I cleaned the paint off the floor and I polished it once I was done because it's wood, or engineered wood. We installed it somewhere how. Words make sense, don't they? I'm not fully putting everything back in the room right now, but I'll put a rug. A rug will look nice for the video purpose. Everything else I need to sort through, so you get a rug. And here is the finished wall mural. So with the design of the Light Fury over here, the Light Fury does have a few little differences. Obviously the color palette is going to be the most obvious thing that stands out. Some other things though, the paws are more petite. The skin's a little bit more polished. It even has iridescent elements to it. The claws are a little bit longer in the front. Toothless has little spikes along the tail, and the Light Fury doesn't have those. It's pretty smooth. As well as the final tail shape has a little bit more of a fan to it. It's very pretty. I can paint realistic and I can paint match for match kind of thing. These wall murals are inspired by though, meaning that the design elements match but the character like for like is not there. I do refer to this kind of design that I do as more storybook, and that's because of the outlines. A bit cuter, a bit more simple. I wouldn't call it anime or animation, but I would call it storybook. And I really like using that style when it comes to wall art because I feel like it's easy on the eyes. Obviously, art is subjective, so it's down to the individual, absolutely. Basically, whatever you like most for you and your space is right. No one can tell you otherwise. But as far as some just kind of guidelines that typically happen in design elements, when it comes to wall art, a frequent use space, or a home, the more complex an art piece gets, the harsher it is on the eyes and it actually makes your brain think more, so the space becomes less relaxing. Basically, if you are surrounded by something that's more complex, obviously your thoughts are going to be more complex, if that makes sense. Color tones can also play into this, so spa colors, blues, greens, purples, those are going to calm you, as well as having that little pop of nature sometimes helps. So when it comes to these kind of wall murals where the characters, they are large, they are taking up most of that wall. This is a lot, and it could feel like too much if it was more detailed, I feel like. So I've kept them simpler to complement the space that they're in, which means they're not overpowering to the space. I could put other stuff in the room and still have the room function how I'd like it to. Right now, it's just our nice little cozy corner. As you know, I'm kind of always in a house project. There's always something I want to do or want to try, but that's also my personality. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Which means if I get an idea for a project, I'm starting the project that day. With the wing, I did decide to pull it in a notch because in person, because of the angle of it, it really made the wing look oddly long. Design-wise, if I was looking at it straight on, it actually looked okay. But given that the wall's on an angle, and it's always going to be kind of seen as an angle, that wing was just stretching out perspective-wise, making it look odd. At least odd to me. I'm never worried about doing something with painting. I'm always more likely to go ahead and try it because if I don't like it or if I miss how it was before, I can just paint it again. So it might take some more time, but I can paint it again. So now the wingspan of that one's ever so slightly less than Toothless. So when you're looking at it from an angle like over there, they look the same now. So that's good. Something I'm not looking forward to is I have to repaint that wall now, that color. I've moved around things a bit too much on that wall and it's got a bit too many blemishes. And I'm out of that wall paint, which means I need to actually just repaint the whole wall to fix spots. That's the one thing I don't like about wall paint. Awesome. I do need to touch up Toothless as well. And when I touch up Toothless, I'm gonna have to repaint Toothless entirely. So we'll see whether or not this stays like that or if I end up retheming the room. But right now, I love it because I do love Dreamworks. I got a Puss in Boots plush. I'm so happy with it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye. Goodbye. Bye.